Well, we do have our guest online. Let's welcome to the Power Breakfast Show, Mr. Clive Clarke. He is the Transport Commissioner. So good morning to Mr. Clarke. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. Good morning to you and your listening audience.
All right. And of course, on the show this morning, we have Dr. Paul Richards, Richard Raghubarison, and of course, Wendell Stephen.
Morning, Mr. Clarke.
Morning, Mr. Paul. I am fine, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Clarke. I've seen licensing officers out for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and for some reason, the public is upset. I saw a newspaper article quoting you saying you all are unmoved by the demonstrations. Give us a sense. Isn't this a normal time for licensing officers to be out, or isn't any time can licensing officers not go out at any time to ensure that people are complying with the law?
Well, thank you very much for that question. I want to answer that question in the context first that if we are fair, what we are seeing on the nation's road in recent times and in time past, you are seeing joint exercises conducted by both the TTPS and the licensing officers. As a matter of fact, those are exercises whereby the licensing department basically will team up on the request of the TTPS to assist with a number of road exercises. So it's not just licensing officers, it's a joint exercise between the licensing department and the TTPS. In exercises of such, what normally happens there is that the licensing officers will continue to monitor behavior in the context of enforcement relative to the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act. The police also capitalize on the opportunity to do the same and also to carry out other enforcement activities relevant to criminal activities, etc. So it is a joint initiative between the licensing and the TTPS.
Mr. Clarke, let me ask this question, because I had to take on a young man on Facebook over the weekend who started to say the government and Rowley and minister this and minister that. And I had to say, listen, what foolishness you're talking? Licensing officers and police officers don't need a minister of national security, or in your case, a minister of works and transport, to tell you all what to do. So you wanna tell me, do you take instructions from your line minister, Mr. Clarke?
Let me just point out though, when it comes to enforcement, no minister or no politician can instruct us in the context of who to give tickets to or not to give ticket to, or to give this person a blight, etc. That's not the way in which we operate. The transport officers, and by that a transport officer is what you call a motor vehicle officer, motor vehicle inspector, and a couple others, ALO, etc. We have powers under the law to that as a constable, a police officer, similar to that of traffic warden, other enforcement entities who are defined under the law. And we have our instructions to follow based on our powers within the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act. So we do not really rely on or need any instructions from the minister or from any politician to do so. We conduct our exercises based on observation, based on trends, based on concerns we have been seeing, based on the fact that we want to promote driving safety, we want to preserve lives, etc. This is what in terms of conducting road exercises.
So you all conducted an exercise over the Easter weekend, which is where the quarrel started, because people felt that why you all out the road that day, be all only causing traffic when people are have a holiday weekend and whatnot. What would prompt an exercise like that on an Easter weekend?
But let me just say, that's not just Easter weekend. I mean, if we are fair to the system and we look at what has been happening even prior to Easter, we have been on the road almost every day. You see licensing officers almost every day. The question might be why Maracas? That might be the question, because I understand. I know we had a special request to accompany police at the Maracas at the Maracas area. And again, though, I'm saying that I just want to answer your question specifically. Easter weekend wasn't something different or what we are accustomed doing. So I cannot really answer why Easter weekend. The issue here must be why Maracas. I think because when I look at the concern, the thing is though is that the Maracas police the division that fall under that section again would have reached out to the licensing department because they would have had the concerns on tradition, what might have been happening in the area, etc. And when we have those calls upon the licensing officers by the TTPS, we provide support wherever need may be. Vice versa, when we call on police to support us, we have that team building exercise. And let me just say it, I as Transport Commissioner will continue to support the presence of enforcement officers on the nation's road as it relates to dealing with some of the challenges we are facing on a day-by-day basis. We save lives based on what we do on a regular basis.
Can you just quickly indicate to us what type of results you would have gleaned from that particular exercise in Maracas?
Let me just add to that, Wendell, please, to Mr. Clarke. What are the predominant types of offenses you're encountering?
Yeah, I'm happy again for that questions. One of the things we are seeing on the nation's road, believe it or not, a number of persons are driving without insurance, and that's a serious offense. A number of persons are driving with expired permits. We have persons driving classes of vehicle that they are not qualified for. Persons are driving defective vehicles. You picture a vehicle with extremely smooth tires where you're seeing the wires in that vehicle going up to Maracas side. Just to point out that area. A number of persons are driving vehicles that are not inspected. Sadly, we also have persons on the road who are disqualified and should not be driving, taking chances. And let me just say, you see those categories, those especially with the insurance and so forth, and persons who are driving vehicles that they are not duly qualified for. I think when the issue hit us home, when one of those persons probably create some accident with our loved ones, and then you realize as Tongue say, one have nothing to get. Then the matter is really driven home. And I'm saying though, in light of that, these are some of the challenges we are facing. And let me just point out though, we have a chronic issue with seatbelt and cell phone use right now. For some reason, in spite of the PR we are doing, in spite of the encouragement the ministry has been putting out, we continue to see a high level of misuse of cell phone and seatbelt and so on. So we have to be able to both provide that level.
Mr. Clarke, isn't that because when the seatbelt laws came in and the laws related to the use of cell phones while driving, the police were very vigilant about applying the law. That doesn't seem to be the case now.
Well, I cannot answer for the TTPS. What I can tell you is that licensing officers, we do not miss when it comes to that. And I have been also instruct my officers further to conduct regular roving exercise throughout the country. Roving exercise is where we simply drive in a marked vehicle, and if we see offenses, we pull persons aside and issue tickets. Because I will tell you something. Normally, if there's a road exercise, persons put on their seatbelts and so forth and pass through, and that is fine. We want to do that. We want to encourage persons to do so. But what we want persons to do is to inculcate a habit. And knowing though that someone is looking at you in terms of it and the fact that one needs to do right or what is required under the.
Now, speaking of that law, is it, if I remember correctly, the law states that the device should not be in your hand, but hands-free devices are allowed. Is that correct or incorrect?
Yes, and that continues to be so. Yeah.
All right. Now, I'm not talking specifically about the case, but what is the law related to accidents on the road? One, if you are involved in an accident, what does the law require of you? And two, what is the law related to someone leaving the scene of an accident?
But let me just point out this. One though is that we are mindful that once there's a vehicle accident, one needs to report that to the police, right? one needs to do so, basically. And therefore, that's the opportunity where you get to provide your relevant documents. Traditionally, we have seen situations where persons we refer to it as hit and run, right? We have persons who run to the police station, because they probably feel the environment is not safe or the conditions is not right, etc. The fact of the matter, though, is that the matter must be reported to the TTPS. There's an issue in terms of timing and that sort of thing, whether you have 24 hours and so on, etc. to do so. These are matters we know which we operate by. The fact is, though, is that the matter must be reported.
So there's no legal requirement to stay at the scene of the accident. Is that what you're saying? But the accident must be reported to the police.
It must be reported. It must be reported. I have not come across a subject. I'm going to say subject to correction, and I want to be very careful here. Any clear responsibility to remain at the scene, and I have to be very careful here. Subject to correction. What is important here is the matter of reporting the matter to the TTPS, and in addition.
What is the time limit for that reporting, Mekan? Because you said it just now, but you didn't give a time. Is there a specific time in which you have to report an accident?
Matter of fact, I will want to clarify that with you at this point. I do not want to give that misinformation. We know persons are encouraged to report an accident within a 24-hour period.
Mm-hmm. But that's not the law. We don't know that that's the law.
Normally, the law may state as practicably, which is in person, it's kind of vague.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner, what is the law when it comes? More and more, I'm seeing a lot of vehicles where the windshield is completely tinted out. What is the law on that?
Let me just put it this way. Glad you asked me that. The law exists right now for tint of a vehicle. The back windows to be that of 20%. The front windshield and the back windshield of 20%. The front we have 70 VLT, and also to the anti-glare ban of 35. Let me just say this though: the front windows, that's where the driver sits and the passenger. That has also 35 VLT, visual light transmitters. Currently, I need to say this on the air. Someone committed an offense with tint. Currently, it will be treated as a summary offense. It means we take you to court to deal with the matter. The aspect of the law where we ought to issue a fixed penalty ticket, they are still settling that within the AG's office and the relevant authorities, and we are hoping that we could have that passed as soon as possible. So the point I am making here, gentlemen, is that as it is right now, we cannot stop someone on the road and give them a ticket for tint. However, the law exists where we could continue to give a summary offense.
I'm glad you said what you said, because clear up this to me once and for all. There's a school of thought out there that the police cannot charge you or stop you with regard to tint and so on, and it's only licensing officers are authorized to so do. Can you clear that up for us once and for all?
Mm.
That's not quite right. The police has, according within the legislation, the power to execute the laws according to the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act. So I am not in support of that whatsoever. If you go to the definition of accountability, the police, the licensing officers, traffic wardens, etc. What is happening, however, let me just again, I'm saying this to the listening audience. For us to enforce tint, we need to use a measuring device. Yeah, mm-hmm. Because the Newton legislation allows for a measuring device to be used. So it's no longer just that subjectivity. The vehicle looked too dark, or for some reason I can't see because of the light and that sort of thing. You use a measuring device. The device allows you a plus or minus 3 tolerance level, and then you seek to issue the summary offense if necessary.
Right. So you cannot, at this point in time, get a ticket for tint.
No, and definitely I need to make that absolutely clear. This is something we are still working on and hoping we can have it rectified within a month or two. I know the matter is currently receiving the attention of the authorities. I have been pressing for it, and again, once that comes in place, the ticket will be issued for such.
Can police or licensing officers order you to remove tint?
Let me put this way, in that if I want to answer you in the context of a licensing officer, right? The first thing in terms of making a decision, that tint have to be contrary to the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act. And actually, what can happen is that once there's an issue of safety, and I want to put this in the context of that, once there's an issue with safety, and a licensing officer recognize that vehicle, based on the fact that this vehicle is so darkly tinted, it could be an issue of safety. A licensing officer can issue what we call a call-in notice to bring that vehicle into licensing, and we can advise you to remove the tint based on a call-in notice. So we can do that. It's not something so much we practice. I have instructed my staff. I can tell you, I have instructed my staff to do not have persons remove the tint on the nation's roads. One of the things, you must be able to test that tint. You must be able to see whether that person validate, whether that person has approval, yes or no. Your question specific to the TTPS, let me just answer you this way. The TTPS, as far as my knowledge, cannot issue a calling notice to a vehicle to visit licensing. They'll need a licensing officer to more or less issue such notice. I do not, as Transport Commissioner, I do not encourage removal action. I want to remove the tint on the nation.
So then,
one last question.
Is it that the police are not acting within the law when they instruct persons to remove the tint? Because then the next charge will be not following the law for the instruction of an officer. And if the instruction is not lawful, you have rights not to follow it.
Well, let me say, I am not aware whether police are instructing persons to remove them. To be honest with you, I'm not aware of that. It's something
Mr. Clarke?
Really?
I'm telling you, I'm being honest with you. I'm not aware.
I've seen it happen times.
Yeah, I am saying that. I know I have instructed my officer not to do so. I'm simply saying, though, it is not the practice we do at licensing.
The approval issue with tints, because there are many new vehicles that come with the back windscreen and the back seats.
Well, factory tint. Yeah.
Yeah, that come with factory
tinted, yes.
And I know sometimes you have to get approval, which I'm always about how state entities are citizen friendly in terms of their policies to the citizens and residents of Trinidad and Tobago. If I buy a car and the car has a tint in the back and on the sides of the back seats, and you are requiring me to have approval for that, one, I think licensing should know, because they're licensing vehicles, that the approval process should be purely virtual or electronic, in that I send in the make of my vehicle and I say there is a back windscreen tint, bam, bam, bam. It's factory, there for factory. Out of a caution, I just want approval for it because it's a factory tint, and you send that approval virtually to me, and even if I have to pay $10 for it, whatever it is, and I have it on my phone as an email, and I could present it if need be, rather than making somebody fill out a document, coming to you to process a factory tint, that they bought a car with the tint, so it's not that they put on the tint, to go through a whole approval process. Takes time and effort.
You are hitting the nail right where I always have concerns when it comes to the licensing department and systems, or any public service where provide a service. We always seek to enhance what we do to make it easier for the citizens. And the point is well noted. I also want to point out to you, though, that it is not just factory tint. It is once that tint falls out of what is required by law. So if you have factory tint that is within law, and most of those vehicles come with factory tint within law, there is no need to write for approval. Let's say I need to move the concept. Some persons feel that once my vehicle has tint, I have to come to the licensing authorities. Not so. I would have given the required the existing VLT that the law permits. The question is, though, is that the licensing department continues to work with car dealers and seeking how we could enhance systems to make it much easier for the citizen. And soon we will be launching our online registration system, where the car dealers will have the opportunity to upload all that information before. And therefore, when you now see a vehicle carry certain specifications, we will have pre-approval documents. Once they test and they could certify at their sides that this vehicle carry this tint, they could issue the approval to the person one time on registration. I fully support that. It's a brilliant idea, but I also want to let you know it is part of the new registration process, which we will be launching very soon.
The last time we spoke to you on this show, we talked about the issue of renewal of driver's permits,
yes,
virtually, and so that you don't have to go into an office. And I think you could probably update on that. One, and two, we had mentioned to the updating of laws for senior citizens, more in line with international practice, where a lot of countries, some countries don't even have medical requirements or they certainly make it less cumbersome in terms of the length of time that you have to renew your license and submit medicals in terms of senior citizens. And you had promised back then when we spoke to you that you would look at it, but I haven't heard any update. And it's so strange because so many people who govern this country are senior citizens by the definition and are driving, I assume, and yet it seems like, it's not.
They have drivers, Richard.
It's not, well, maybe they're not drivers anymore, but it seems, because senior citizens are often the brunt of certain discriminatory practices. They get benefits too, but they have certain discriminatory practices. And I think that licensing issue is one of them. And we brought it up last time, so I don't know if you have any update on those two items.
Okay, yeah, you asked me two items. Let me just talk about the online renewal. You would have seen in recent times the minister would have given an update on a number of online initiatives to be launched in the licensing department before the end of this year. He said your question is specific to online renewal. Just to let you know what is happening with that right now. Currently, we are in the testing phase of that software. That software for us was developed by iGov TT, and as well that system is also coming with the capacity where one can also pay for that service online, have that permit delivered at your home or at a TT Connect center. Currently, the ministry, we are finalizing the MOU with TT Connect and the contract with TT Post. I know today, just for information's sake, today the ICT persons behind the project will be carrying out the testing today with the integration with TT Post. By that, we want when someone apply for a permit online, we are testing the customer side of things. You must be able to know exactly where your permit is in the production. So we see that system, as I say, if I have to give a timeline, basically, I am certain within a 3-month period that system will be deployed. I'm really hoping it is much before, because again, we are in the testing stage.
Well, I mean, that's absolutely great news. But just as an adjunct to that, why is it that virtual driver's permits or permits electronically on your phone, so after you complete the process, you get the permit virtually on your phone? Why is that also not a consideration rather than just having them posted via TT Post and, killing more trees and
right?
stuff?
And I am saying, though, let's just expand what you're saying. They're not just for permit, but even for insurance. Yes. Is that, and I'll tell you, from an ICT perspective, the truth of any document is be able to validate it from the source it came from, not from a copy or from a physical document, because the best secure documents can be be counterfeited. What we are looking at is deploying technology on a phase basis. And these are things within the drawing board we are looking for. What we have to first seek to do is to ensure we have digitized process that could guarantee the true source of this information. And I'm saying those are other phases of the deployment process of electronic documents being presented for data validation. Because I'll tell you something, if that is not installed properly, you could run into serious problem with persons giving you documents that are not legitimate from an electronic point of view. And that's the worst type of challenges you don't want to face. But again, it is something we are looking at consideration. We also see one or two countries are doing so. I really want to touch on that area. You spoke about senior citizens and the need for medical, etc. And I also want to say, though, recently I read an article about a couple of months ago with Barbados, and where they would have increased that age and so forth. So we do have an entity, an island right in the Caribbean here, who have taken those things into consideration. Again, the commissioner would have put forward the necessary recommendations to that of the authorities. When I say legal department, I know the ministry they are also looking at legislative reform in a number of areas in the motor vehicle and road traffic act. I cannot give details as to what age and so forth, but we also need to be mindful. We need to be mindful, gentlemen, that we have had situations that a driver's permit, is supposed to be a document whereby says that you are eligible to drive. You are eligible to drive. I have persons, children and grandchildren writing to me as commissioner. Please, I'm begging you. So if you could not renew my father's driver's permit or my brother, etc., because of medical challenges, because of what they are facing, there could be a risk to the nation's road, right? Because it's a next side of the coin when relevant to such. We had recently, I think it was in Tinapuna, we had an issue where a senior citizen, due to challenges, would have had a major accident there. And I'm saying, though, it is something we have to look at very carefully. And also,
that's your position is a default position that politicians and people in things of power often do. They always go to the isolated examples to justify why no change happens. I assume that is not what you're doing. I hope that's not what you're doing.
I beg to differ. I beg to differ. We have to look at the isolated situation. We point out the facts of what can take place, and this is why when we conduct transactions for senior citizens, we do carry out our due diligence, because again, but I am in support of the fact that whatever systems we put in place, whatever service we provide, we should have that ease and greater opportunity for senior citizens. But we cannot again simply just implement, as you say, based on an isolated situation. But the issues are real, that we can face issues if we don't treat with that carefully. Hence, we need to put policies, conduct the research before we move forward.
All right. Commissioner, I got one question. We have a lot of questions coming through on WhatsApp. One being, in the inspection sticker certificate, if that must be in the vehicle as well, and why?
Yes, I want to just point out, though, that has been a question that persons are asking back and forth. You're an issue with a maxi taxi there. When we have to operate in the context of law, and the law makes it clear that at this point in time, both documents must be presented to the enforcement officer when called upon. The issue, though, that is the law right now, and that is what we seek to comply with.
All right. And another question is lights on a vehicle. There are many vehicles with numerous flashing lights, the white lights, the white headlights, and they just drive around their trucks, their tow trucks with multi-lights flashing at all given time. Is that legal?
Let me just say, one of the things the law identifies what lights are to be on a vehicle. And it makes it very clear that the use of any lights, additional light, requires the approval of the transport commissioner. So if these additional lights you are seeing on these vehicles, and we are simply stating that any additional lights that someone requires to place on their vehicle the approval of the Transport Commissioner is required, and there's a process to do so. And again, I'm coming back to you in the context of enforcement. And these are the issues we are picking up on the Nations Road when we have routine exercise at night, when we have roving exercises. I have seen many persons driving on the Nations Road with the lower lights, the fog lights, even the headlights, blue, red, pink. Basically, matter of fact, we have had situations where we can look at certain lights, and when we actually switch on the switch, you come in with us with it white, and when you switch the ship on and off, it changes to blue and pink, different colors. So I'm saying though, those are a safety issue, and it's offenses that we look for when we're in Nations Road.
Yeah, but if you have those lights, and you realize the vehicle have those lights or defective vehicles, why are they allowed to drive away? If it's not roadworthy, let's say there's a vehicle that's not roadworthy, they get a ticket, but they take the same vehicle and drive away.
I'll tell you something, and again, I'm saying though, when we conduct enforcement, you have options where you can issue a ticket for that person for the lights, and therefore encourage the person that you also remove those lights. Sadly, if that person go down the nation where he meets a next roadblock on a different side, different officer, and he receives that ticket, that's his whole business. We can also, if we realize it's such a serious matter, we sometimes do what we call immediate calling notice and tell us, because listen, we must accompany this because of licensing, because that is a hazard. Yeah, so it all depends on the environment, the enforcement. Sometimes in an exercise, you cannot due to resources and so forth, you cannot use all aspects of the enforcement and tactics at the same point in time. But I do agree with you, it's a dangerous situation.
Mr. Clarke, I want to just go back to the tint issue again, just for the purposes of clarification. Is it that the unmarked vehicles of state officials, police officers, and so on, do they require special permission from licensing office to completely blacken out their cars, including the windscreen?
Let me just say, the tint legislation makes it clear that there are certain agencies that are exempted from tint, from the tint law. However, they still require that while they are exempted, we still basically, with some of them, we provide that level of approval. In other words, they write us to have to prevent that document, because you find it sometimes with the vehicles that are convert ones. I have to be very careful here. Once that vehicle is registered to that entity that is considered where the law allows them that exemption, basically they are free to utilize such, whether marked or unmarked.
So there's there's a part two of that question, because I see it a lot too with the privately owned vehicles of some of these officers. Is that allowed?
Yes, and repeat, please.
The privately owned vehicles of these officers, you see them from time to time.
No, I get you. And I'm saying again though, and again, you continue to ask the questions to see why enforcement are on the road. I, as Transport and Commissioner, as an individual, I am not exempted from the tint. I have a responsibility to make sure my vehicle is within the tint limit. Likewise, my officers, likewise police officers, and therefore they are not exempted as an individual with their private vehicles. Definitely not.
Well, I'm happy you're saying what you're saying, Mr. Clarke.
For approval.
All right.
I'm happy you're saying what you're saying.
I got another question for you. Where some tickets are saying you can pay online, but that is not true.
No, that is not true. Matter of fact, let me just say, I give you a lot of inside administrative things you're privileged to get this morning. The ministry currently we are finalizing the contract for that to utilize that merchant ID and that gateway for online service. As a matter of fact, I know it was approached, it went to the authorities recently, and I'm really hoping I think probably within a month or so, we should probably hopefully have that up and running, because we have crossed all T's, dot all I's, test all software, everything. We are just seeking the approval with the relevant bank and to issue the merchant ID, which will provide the person opportunity to do so.
All right. And what about, since Jack Warner days, we've been hearing about weigh stations for trucks and so on. What is it? There's nothing happening with that. I remember there was a time you cracked down on it. You impounded some vehicles in Caroni. Other vehicles came over. I remember seeing offloading some gravel so the truck could make weight. But I believe there might be so many overweight trucks on the nation's roads.
Well, one of the things though is that the existing weight station we have right now, what we utilize for weight enforcement. I mean, the ministry at large. I know the ministry through the Highways Division. They are currently seeking to expand that, right? That facility, as well to different locations, etc. We have been exploring with the Bureau of Standard Portable Scales and so on. There is a need for increased scales and increased weight enforcement within the country. That's a fact. Currently, those exercises, we do carry out those exercises time to time. As Commissioner, I am not pleased with the fact, though, that based on the location of where our weighbridge are, I don't think we are making a serious dent with that. But the fact is, though, I know the ministry currently has an appointed team, and you may hear more on that in the public domain from the minister, where we are seeking to expand the capabilities of doing so. You have to understand also, too, that when we carry out a road exercise, when it comes to weighing a vehicle, you have to ensure that device is calibrated and more or less designed in such a way to give you that level of accuracy.
All right. And this is my final question here. And it comes back to what I keep mentioning sometimes, including yesterday. And it was regards the seatbelt law, and coming back to that. And can you be an advocate that once someone sits in a vehicle that holds the driver and 4 passengers, that everyone wears a seatbelt? I am tired of seeing mommy and daddy in the front seat, the children in the back, and they're struggling between the passenger and driver's seat, and they're just, standing watching. But mommy and daddy safe because their seatbelts on. Can you be an advocate to have all individuals once in a vehicle, may it be from truck to passenger vehicle, that once you're in a vehicle to have their seatbelts on? Oh, jeez,
let me just say, I'm always an advocate.
I don't know why people call this WhatsApp number. Excuse me 1 second, Commissioner. Go ahead.
I will always support and I will always be an advocate for safety, especially when it comes to seatbelt. I also want to say you are quite right that where the seatbelt law exists for the front passengers and then different age groups and that sort of thing. The thing is, though, is that I also have been hearing conversations on that from other NGOs, Arrive Alive and so forth, have been lobbying the same. I also think it's an asset to do so and a benefit, and it's something I will seek to take back to the team in terms of bringing into the environment as a conversation and hopefully for implementation later on. I guess if you allow me, you asked earlier on about the issue of an accident, and I will have pointed to you subject to clarification in terms of someone having a duty to stop an accident, etc. And according to the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, you do have a duty to stop and give and assist in the event of an accident, and as well as to report the incident, and also to it's an offense not to do so, especially where injuries and so forth exist. I want to advise your listening audience to take a key interest to Section 79(1) of the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act relevant to such behavior.
Mr. Clarke, my final question is something that we've been toying with for years now, and that is the issue of personalized license plates. And how are we, where are we with that? Because I think right now it's random numbers. If somebody wants a particular number, can't we put something in place where they could pay a fee to have a particular number assigned?
Okay, I'm going to let something out of the bag here. It is something we are at advanced stage in terms of moving forward with. We have put forward a recommendation. I know it reached the attention of the authorities recently. It was sent back for us to implement a reasonable pricing structure and a policy to do so. Matter of fact, that came back just last week. What I do know, you will see very soon, you'll hear the minister talking about specialized number, and that's the numbers within the registration stream, that's between numbers within the letters and the 199 and the 9 up to 999, where you'll have an opportunity to request a number. And I want to say, when that comes, you'll have the opportunity to do so online. Nobody will be writing the commissioner and asking the commissioner for any number. You go online, you see that it's available, you know it is taken, or you know what number is available to you. We also hope to bring with that the opportunity where someone could also have a personalized number, 102 FM, yeah, that those are flag 1, etc. That we also seeking to implement that as part of the process. And again, though, I leave that where the minister will say more on that in the public domain. But we at a stage where we are more or less finalizing the deployment mechanism of doing so.
Let me ask you a question here. Is there any talks within the works where the license plate for a vehicle is owned by the individual and not owned by the car? The reason I'm asking that, suppose I buy a car from Wendell. The car has a lot of tickets on it. He sells me the car, and I get a summons that I have to pay when I go to renew inspection or whatever it is, or my driver's permit, that the car has $1,000 in tickets or $10,000 in tickets. Is there any works that the license plate now belong to the owner? If I buy a car, I can put my license plate on that car.
Okay, let me just say though, when it comes to the ministry deploy the personalized number plate, that will be plate to owner and not plate to vehicle. That's one, right? So you keep that with you. That's the proposal we intend to go with, right? Plate to owner. As it is now, we do have plate to vehicle, right? You're asking basically, suppose a vehicle has tickets on it, etc., etc. I want to point out though, at this point in time, we do not have tickets on vehicle. In other words, while the ticket is assigned to the vehicle, we do not apply sanctions on the vehicle or so. However, and your question may be relevant in terms of, and it's something we'll have to look at. You do know that when the camera system comes, by that of the spot speed enforcement, right? Through the camera system, by that of the red light enforcement system, that system comes with it, whereby the ticket or the citation notice will be issued to the registered owner, and the law under the red light enforcement system. That's the way it is. I guess we will have to look at, when that time comes, the conversation, we put certain administrative processes in place to treat with that. I hope I answer your question relevant to such.
Hmm. Did you address the issue of the RFID plates? I wasn't sure. I'm not sure.
I wonder, you said you asked that, and again though, you're asking matters that are currently, which will be going to cabinet soon. So I want to kind of not to talk about policies in the context of that, and simply say the minister will say more on that, and you may very well hear him talking about a different approach. I will say for now. Yeah.
All right. So I guess that brings us to the end.
Yeah, Commissioner of Transport, Commissioner Mr. Kevin Clarke, thank you so much for being with us, enlightening a lot of things.
I love my name changer. Clive Clarke.
Sorry. I say Kevin Clarke.
That's all right.
Clive Clarke. I have a partner named Kevin Clarke. That's fine.
All right.
Mr. Clarke, it's always refreshing speaking with you after.